to Rving in New England, the nation's only forum that puts you on stage with some of the biggest names in the RV industry. This program is brought to you by Lee's Family Trailer Sales and Service, one of America's fastest growing RV dealerships. And now your hosts, John DePietro and Bob Zagami.
And what we are going to do is devote this show entirely to so many of the features that you'll be able to see on the New England RV and Camping Expo coming to a living room near you on April 10th and 11th. Joining me are Bob Zagami down in the corner, and also our friend Billy from Loons Haven, and Mr. Bill from Advisor Communications, who is our technical guru behind this, where when the show goes off great, we say, thank you, Bill. If there's a technical glitch, we blame it on Bill. So with that being
that's this show. You're talking April.
Yeah, right.
Take full responsibility.
Show. Glad you were able to find your way out of the technical rough turf.
Well, look at I never claimed to be a technical genius. I am a genius, but not a technical genius.
Yeah. And I have not been accused of being either type of genius.
No.
But you know what? We've got to, Bob, we may not be the brightest bulbs on the circuit, but we're smart enough to tie ourselves up to the two of the brightest bulbs that we know. And why don't you explain them a little bit more further, not explain them, but introduce them a little bit further so that our audience knows who is joining us.
That's true. And I think it's safe to say we would not have an expo in April if we didn't have Billy McNamara and Bill Sell holding us up. So on the top left, Billy McNamara, operations manager for Loons Haven Family Campground up there in beautiful Naples, Maine. And on the right, Bill Sell, the owner of Advisor Communications. And Bill and I go back, probably about 20 years or so, shows and conventions and what have you. And he's probably one of the best guys in the country. And that's why we picked him. And he does live in Framingham, Mass., which helps out.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Back when you both had hair, right?
Yeah, we did.
There was a time.
There was a time we both had hair. You're right.
Now, we don't know how our audience is looking at this, but you can see the younger and more attractive side of this foursome is on the left of the screen. That would be Billy and me. And they experienced,
the guys without the hair?
Yeah, the other guys there are on the other side. But
I hope it doesn't affect me with you guys.
All right, real quick. Mark Polk, thanks for joining us. Eric, glad to have you back from Sumter Oaks Campground in Bushnell, Florida. Jerry Plant, good evening from Cape Cod. Dante up there in Windham, Maine. Jim Convoy down there in Plainville, Mass. Billy,
Bob, hold on.
What do you want?
Why are you reading from the back to the front? You should reward the people like Jim Convoy, who was the first one here, with the first message instead of the last one.
No, because we do that every week. So today, seeing that everything was turned upside down last week, I just read from the bottom up. See, okay. And Tony just joined us. Hey, Tony.
From California.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So can we get the train back on the track and maybe let Billy tell a little bit about herself without you interrupting and without you giving her a timeout? Go ahead, Billy.
So as Bob said, I'm the operations manager at Loons Haven Family Campground. And when we had this a few weeks ago, we had 154 campsites, and we're actually celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. So extremely excited about that, to be 60 years, have a campground, and offer offer those family camping experiences for people that some of them were young. Then they first came there and now they're, they have a seasonal site and they keep coming back, bringing their kids back. It's really awesome. So
we can't wait to visit this summer.
Yes, you guys need to come up for sure.
Now, do all our fans get free camping if they come up to Loons Haven?
Oh, we can do discounted or something.
We'll have a nerve to discount. Well, that's
Nerve
not
to
bad.
discount.
Model up there just for a free week.
So Kevin Horgy joined us. So Kevin's our Cougar rep for New England. So Kevin, next time you come to New England, you better be towing a new Cougar to train all those people up at Lee's family trailer, and you could go over to Loons Haven and stay at their beautiful campground. In fact, you could bring your son, and you could take. Is fishing allowed at Tricky Pond?
Yes,
Billy.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Can you keep the fish?
I would assume. I don't take them. I
Or
don't
you
like
know what?
fish.
No, some of it catching. What do they call it? Catch and release. Some of them.
Catch and
Release.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
No. Okay. Chris Andro is joined.
I'm not. There's a lot of fish in Tricky Pond, and people always ask me what kind they are. I never know. I can never remember those up there. So,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of good
Hey,
fish.
look,
from what people tell me.
We've got several states already here, Bob. Let's just see. We got Jim Convoy in Massachusetts. Is Dante in Maine?
Dante's in Maine.
Jerry's down the Cape. Eric is in Florida. Mark is in North Carolina.
Eric, Kevin's in Indiana.
Or Michigan.
Tony's in California. Yeah.
You know where Kathy, tell us where you're from. And Doug Turner is from Central.
He's in Indiana.
Chris is from Connecticut.
And we got Chris in Connecticut. Hey, Chris Andrews on, and Chris is the one of the co-owners with his sister and his brother at Hemlock Hill RV down in Connecticut. And if you're not doing anything this weekend, you really ought to take a ride to Southington, Connecticut, because they're having their renovation opening sale. Get me if I'm wrong on that, Chris, but they've just renovated the entire building. I myself have not been down yet. I've been heading down that way. What is it, DePietro?
It's, I believe it's Southington, Connecticut, but I might be wrong.
What did I say? Southington?
Southington.
I think it is Southington.
Yeah.
And you've been so rude because you've not let Bill Sell introduce himself. So
well, that's okay. We made it 8 minutes before you got the first time outside.
Bill's in the black and white.
No, that was his second time. Brad Moore from Bradford RV. Hey, beautiful. We got some great dealers on here tonight.
Hold on.
See, they're excited about the expo. What?
Because Brad is here, it's appropriate now to say that I talked with Riney Leiberger's wife today, and Riney is our friend. He works for Brad. He's worked with a number of dealers. He's our friend. He's always on the show, and he's in a COVID situation, but he is out of ICU and regaining his strength. And if you want to send him a card at Milford Regional Hospital in Milford, Massachusetts, Bob, maybe you can spell his last name. I cannot spell his last name. I know that he'd be happy to.
I'll post
here.
I'll post it up there. Lehberger, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, Brad should. Yeah. So, Bill Sell, thank you for joining us tonight.
Sure.
What is your deal in this whole thing?
Well, for a bunch of years, I've been creating conferences and trade shows for people. And something that Bob and I have talked about a number of times over the last 12, 13 months since COVID started to impact events. We were even talking about it last January at the Boston RV event at the BCEC in Boston. What if things ever did close down? And just a couple of weeks ago, when you guys got that wonderfully not wonderful news that the April rescheduled dates weren't going to work in person, we talked on a Friday night and said, let's create an online program. And that's exactly what we did.
And I have to say, as being probably, well, not probably, but without question, the least technical person in the group, that what you guys have done in a short period of time is nothing short of a miracle. And I think Zagami would agree that without you two at the top of the page, we would not have a show. We'd put it this way. We wouldn't have anything like what we're going to have, but nothing like, we wouldn't have one. Just put it that way.
We both think alike, Billy and Bill. And the whole idea is to bring people together. And if we can't do it in person, there's got to be some version of this to be able to do it online. And the platform that we're going to be using is designed to do three real things. Yeah, education. So we're going to have a whole bunch of workshops. The networking, so you can pick people and meet up with them online, on camera, just like this, similar to how you would do it if you were at a convention center. And then, of course, the expo. And our expos are going to be for the RV dealers and for product-related companies. And Billy's bringing in a lot of the campgrounds. So people who have not gone and visited the campground booths when you go to the Boston RV show, for example, now you will. And you'll see 80 of them, I hope. I think we set our goal at 80. Let's see if we can hit that number.
And we want to hit it and exceed it.
Yes. And that's just the campground side of things.
Yeah, I want to say something right up the top. In doing this and putting it together, because there's been a little bit of confusion out there. Live shows and live in-person shows, whether it's an RV show or an automobile show or a home show, are not going to go away. They will be back at some point in time. So this is not in any way intended to replace the Boston RV show. In fact, we're working in concert with Gary Edgar at Paragon Group. He's aware of what we're doing, and he will probably have a booth at the Expo also. So when you look at virtual events, and Billy, why don't you take it from a standpoint, Billy's put together just an incredible sell piece for our exhibitors in the campgrounds, and the deal is, and some of these statistics are amazing when you switch from an in-person event to a real event. Do you want to take a shot at that for a little while, Billy?
Sure. Yeah. So, Bill obviously has a lot of the experience with the event planning. My background is actually in data analytics, so I'm all into the research and things. So I did a lot of research on virtual events and what people are thinking of them now. Especially, with COVID and limiting their ability to go out and see these products or have these talks with people that they normally do. So, in that research, what I found is, virtual events have doubled in 2020. They doubled from what they used to be. There was kind of a moving towards it anyway. We all did Zoom calls for things, but virtual events, actual conferences and events have doubled. And 93% of event marketers, so people like Bill, plan to invest more into virtual events moving forward because they've seen the success in them. And then 63% of organizations, so these are your businesses, these are your operations, they are moving towards digital conferences for events too, because they don't want to miss the opportunity to be in front of their customers. And that is one of the big things that we're trying to do too, is to help these businesses that are missing that opportunity to get in front of their consumer, their customer, you guys, to showcase their products. And a big thing that I thought was really interesting is looking at the attendees side. So the people who come to these and what they think, what do they really think of it? And so 86% of people who attended a virtual event, they report that they have higher levels of engagement compared to an in-person event. And maybe it's because they feel comfortable in their own home. They can chat if they don't want to talk face to face. They're not just walking by and picking up a brochure. They can actually peruse and look at things. And then 80% of people who have attended a virtual event said they're really excited to attend these in the future. So they're getting something from it, and we're trying to meet that thing that they're getting and then go above it as well. And so that's why we're bringing the education into it, the networking into it, as well as the products and the RVs and the campgrounds.
Mm.
It's very interesting when you look at those kinds of numbers and how comfortable people are. And if you take that concept of where we're going right now today because of COVID, and then look at what we did in the in-person events, then when we get to 2022, you're going to have what's called a hybrid event. We are never going to not have in-person events, and we are never, ever going to have everything on the computer. You want to talk a little bit about that, Bill? Because Bill and I go back, for those of you who are old enough, and there's not too many that I see there, But if you remember a show called Comdex that was developed by Sheldon Adelson out of Massachusetts, it literally changed the face of Las Vegas. It made Las Vegas a convention town. He built the convention center. Talk a little bit about the concept of shows and events and what every industry is looking at, Bill.
Sure. What Comdex really did do was legitimize face-to-face marketing. And at its heyday, which was the late 90s when it was at its largest, we had 220,000 attendees in 5 days at an event in Las Vegas that just in the last year or so, the Consumer Electronics Show has finally caught up in size to what Comdex, the Computer Dealer Expo, was all about. But what we saw was that companies were putting real money into meeting attendees. Before that, it was go buy your computer online if you could buy it during once the internet was up. But before that, it was your traveling salesperson came to your office and you knew what that person told you, but that's all you really did know about it until you got to the trade show. And at a trade show, you pick what you want to go see. Today, we've taken that same concept of you, the attendee, are in control of what you want to see. If you want to be in the education, you go there. If you want to do networking and you want to be in networking all day, no problem. You stay just there. You still are part of the event. You still have access, but it's giving you the control over what you want to be able to go see and learn. And if you want to go see 50 booths back to back and talk to every one of them, in this kind of a setting, you can easily do that. Now, one of the unique things we have is it really humanizes the education side of things. You can go to a workshop that we would have had at the Boston RV Show, 70 people in the room, somebody's up there presenting it. It could be Bob Zagami. And when the session is done, 1 or 2 or 3 people get to ask a question before it's, okay, time's up, guys, time to leave the room. And maybe 2 or 3 people run up and see Bob on the way out of the room. And the rest of the audience is like, well, I had a question, but I was too shy to ask it. Or I had a question and I couldn't get to the microphone to ask. So they just leave and it's, something just didn't completely fulfill what they wanted. With what we're going to be doing, you've got a chat just like we have here right now on the right side of the screen. And you can pose your question as soon as it comes to mind. And we're going to have not just the community and the people who are in the audience as part of that chat, but our presenters are going to be there as well. And they can answer it. And you can have a one-on-one conversation with Bob. And if you wanted to have a separate one-on-one meeting on camera with Bob, you can set it up at any point. It's not one of those things that you have to walk around the larger show floor and say, where do I find him? With the online program, it really made finding the people you want and the information you want really, really easy. And as
it's funny you say that because I can't tell you how many times after I do my seminar at the Boston show, and sometimes I do it, 3-4 times a day.
Yeah,
I'll be walking around the show floor, and sure enough, somebody tugs the back of your shirt and say, "Can I ask you a question? I was in your seminar. Can I?" And completely oblivious to the other 17,000 people that are walking around. But you're right. Yes, John.
Let's take that one step further because Zagami is very rare as a speaker because he says right up front, "I will stay around and ask and answer every question." And so many times when I was working with him in the Boston show, I would have to virtually pull him away from the seminar area because we're trying to set up the next group, especially if it was the reptiles and the snakes and the other stuff because of that. But let's take it one step further. I see that there's a couple of dealers here that are in our audience. And keep in mind one thing. On the hot days of a show, meaning the largely attended shows, there comes to a point where the dealership can't deal with all the leads at the same time, all the people that are coming into their booth at the same time, because of the fact that there's just not enough salespeople. So what happens is somebody comes into your booth and leaves because they weren't attended to. The technological features from a vendor's perspective that we're able to offer, unless I'll just use Chris as an example. down in Southington, Connecticut. Well, Chris, you sell all over New England, all over the Northeast for that fact, and people even fly in other areas to come into your place. Everybody who visits your booth, you will get the names and the contact information of those people in the booth. So what you're able to do as a smart marketer is to follow up. And even if you talk to them, you follow up. So that is certainly from a vendor's perspective, a feature that is not found on live events because there's only so many people you can talk to at any one time.
You're absolutely right, John. And what you're going to get is an Excel spreadsheet with 11 data points. And one of those data points is going to tell you how many minutes the hang time was in the booth. So you get the person who walks by your booth in person at a physical event, and you can smile, say hi. They might grab a piece of literature so they know about you. You still know nothing about them. You'll know male or female, and that's it. You don't know where they're coming from or history with RVs, whatever. With us, if they visit and they're only there for a minute, you know that they just popped in and popped back out. But that 11 data point, which we do have quite a few interesting data things, you get all that. Somebody who's there for 20 minutes in your booth, different place in the purchasing cycle, your team will know that much more about them. And you will have zip code and state, so you can sort people, break them up into this person's going to be selling in state, somebody else is going to sell out of state.
Right.
The biggest, I want to get to Billy on this here with some data analytics, but one of the things that in talking to dealers the last couple of days, because our phone's been ringing off the hook, the dealers are really excited about having something like this, is if you think about the Boston show, we get 17,500 people. We get about 2,000 people that will register for the grand prize and give us a little bit of information. That means that after an incredible show and the dealer's selling a lot of RVs, there are 15,500 people walking the streets of New England who we don't know anything about, other than the fact that we saw a bunch of bodies. Yeah. Billy, that's your specialty, that's your background, it's your degree. Talk about the importance, because I think this is something that no other show has been able to give people.
Absolutely. So, for me, when I do a camping show, we went from having a clipboard that people signed up for, join our newsletter, and it's just basically name, phone number, email address. Then we moved to an iPad that people can, put in their information so that at least we have that data. But that's all that we have, just to put them on the mailing list to get information. And at my booth, I only have one. So unless people want to stand in line and wait, they're just going to walk right by and not give that data. So a big thing that you can use this for marketing is if you do Facebook ads or you do Google ads, so you can set your demographics of who you're trying to target. You're looking at your target market here. So with this information, you can find out, you may not even know who your target market is. Maybe you think you know, but after you get this data, your target market might change for the better for you, because you find out, well, maybe it's more women that are coming to my booth, and maybe they're the ones that are making the decision. So now I need to target this more with my advertising, or, maybe the ages are different than what you thought, or the places they're coming from, or what people are looking for. Like what Bill said with the 11 data points that we have, we're asking questions on specifics of what people are looking for, what they're shopping for, what they've seen, what they want to do. And this is all pertinent data to help you in your marketing, in your business. Good marketing turns into return on your investment in revenue and profits. And so by utilizing that is what's going to help you.
Bob, let me address the consumers. Billy did a great job in addressing business owners and vendors, but let me address consumers. And there's three main areas that people would fall into. Number one, I just bought an RV, so I don't need to go to this show. Totally incorrect, because even if you've just bought a 45-foot diesel pusher, you have the highest learning curve as to you learning how to use it. So when you go to this show, you will find, thanks to Bill Sell and Billy and Bob, 18 educational seminars, not sales pitches, but seminars. And folks, because we listen to you, 2 weeks ago when we got on here and we told you about this show, we said, tell us the types of seminars that you want to see. Balancing your RV properly for loads, campground, what do you call it? Work campers, all the seminars,
etiquette for sure.
electrical systems, all that stuff. So that's there. The other audience is, I've never bought one, so I don't know what to look for. Again, totally incorrect way of thinking, because of the wide variety of vendors that will be there, as well as seminars and workshops. This is the place to be. And the third one was, well, I don't live in New England. Why should I buy a ticket for a New England show? I will tell you this. The show is based out of New England, but it is not New England centric. So the information and the education that's available is pertinent regardless of where you live. Now, if you live in Houston, Texas, you probably don't need the seminar on winterizing. But for everything else, the material is generic. So you got education, you've got geography, and you've got I've bought or I haven't bought, but either way, you need to be in the show as a spectator.
Shopping for RVs. And plus, if you buy an RV, you got to have a place to take it. So you need to find all these awesome campgrounds to go to.
Yep.
I think the campground, and we were excited when Billy reached out to us to actually meet us and get, have a discussion. And that discussion led to her being on the team. That decision took all of about 10 minutes to make.
That's because she saw me.
I think for the campgrounds, I think we're going to surprise ourselves. I think we'll have more than 80 campgrounds, only from a standpoint that what we're offering, they just don't get. I mean, and if anybody who's been to a show, you realize a lot of people, they see the campgrounds, but they walk by them. If there's 4 people at the desk, to Billy's point, they'll walk by them, and guess what? They probably don't come back. They're gone. So you're going to be there for 2 days. They're going to be able to talk to many of those particular campgrounds, do some reservations. That's going to be a critical part of it. Bill, before we leave the intelligence and get to our halfway point commercial, talk about the 1 second. The
intelligence.
The target, the pinpoint geo-targeting, what they're going to get is one of the data points in the package.
A unique map. But before I get to that, I did want to thank the couple of people. Tony and James both went to Comdex. It's been almost 15 years since that event ended, so I still want to posthumously say thank you. We appreciate that. One of the program tools we're going to be providing is in conjunction with Google. We've actually been able to create a pin drop map that.
He's been banned. He must have done. He must have placed a political comment.
No, you can still hear him.
I can't.
No.
I'm here.
Okay, we'll get to it. Let me.
Should we tell people what he was saying? Is that you get a little?
I can tell if you want. Okay.
Well, let me. Do it quickly, and then I'll bring up the commercial.
So it's a pin drop map of everyone. So we're talking about those data points, and it's a pin drop map so you can physically see where everyone is. It's a really, really cool marketing tool, and the reach tool. Cool. We're seeing where we're reaching to, where people are coming from, where they're registering from.
Okay. So
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
So new stuff happening at Lee's Family for 2021. Like their huge show yard expansion for more units and plenty of parking. Over 500 additional units arriving, including Wildwood, Grand Design, Cougar, and Montanas. 150 motorhomes like Winnebago and Echo are arriving. Go see them on Route 302 in Windham and at Lee'sFamilyTrailer.com. The fifth wheel capital of New England.
Love how it feels in your home on wheels from Lee's Family Trailer.
Okay, where'd we leave you on the conversation?
2 for 2, Zagami. Take a bow.
Two for 2. I think Bill Selton. No, I thought Bill was back, but he's gone. Okay, Billy, you want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So again, it's just another marketing tool for you. It's another data tool to get this information of where people are, because you can look at zip codes and you could pull it. And if you're really fancy and use something like Tableau or an Excel mapping, you could do it. But you don't have to do it with this, because you'll get all that data in a picture. It's Google Maps. It's just like Google Maps, and it shows the pin drop of where everyone is, so you can see where your reach is, and that helps with your demographics too. So if you look at where you are, centered where you are, if you're in Boston, Massachusetts, and the people who visited go out 200 miles, they go out 500 miles, now you know where you can market to.
Yeah. I want to show you how profound our dealers are and how smart our dealers are. Chris Andrew just said, Billy joined the team before she knew John eats SpaghettiOs, which we know are Chef Boyardee. So yeah, we did. We could not tell her that. If we told her that beforehand, you're right, Chris, she wouldn't be on there. Maria says new product.
Chris is located close enough to the New York border that he could be excluded from the dealership from New England.
From New England.
Yeah.
Well, it all depends on whether he's a Yankees or a Red Sox fan.
Well,
if he's a Yankees fan, we just cut him off automatically.
But we should tell our audience that not only is Chris one of the principals of one of the nicest dealerships in Connecticut, okay, but he's also the chairman or president?
Chairman of the board.
The chairman of the board of RVDA, the Recreational Vehicle Dealers of America. So we are honored to have a New Englander in that position, and actually, it's at least the second time, because Jeff Hirsch had that position a few years ago.
And Scott Silva's on the ramp up, and he'll be chairman in a couple of years also. Maria says new products and use of RVs. Yeah, we will have definitely seminars on that, especially with respect to smart technologies. There's so much smart technology coming into the units now. That was one of the ones that showed up on John's survey. Very critical to people. And internet connectivity. I mean, you cannot have enough seminars on internet and Wi-Fi and systems that have that. Bernie Colleton's on from Campers Inn up in Merrimack. Hey, Bernie. I had a great conversation today with Ted Galesian. He sounds fantastic, and glad to see him back in the saddle up there. Walt Burns. Great technology and structure for the show, somewhat similar to the virtual RVDA convention that was efficient. That's true. Kevin says, chairman of RVDA. Way to go, Chris Andrew. We can do that. Billy, from a campground perspective, they've kind of been like I don't say the last thing people think about. Yeah, they're out there and they serve a purpose and a good purpose. And lately, last couple of years, they've been challenged, certainly last year, with the lack of campground etiquette of first-time buyers. Speak to that and why it's important that the campgrounds come to the expo to see the rest of the world. Sometimes they just sit in their booth and they don't get a chance to see what the rest of the show is like, because most campgrounds only send one or two people and they have to man the booth all the time, so they don't get out to see the RVs. This time they kind of get to be in the show and go to the show, right?
Yes, absolutely. The thing with campgrounds is some of them, like if you're in a good location or you're primarily seasonal, a lot of them don't have to market a lot because the people just come to them. And I think for 2020, it wasn't in the middle. It was either you had a great year or you had a horrible year. And so this kind of aspect, people sell people. And that's something that Bill was kind of talking about with the change in the marketing that the Comdex did, is it changed the way that we market. And so if we can't get in front of people and talk about our campground, you can look at pictures online all day, you can look at brochures, but unless you actually can talk to someone about that and ask the questions and get the answers, you can't sell your product, whether it be a campground, an RV, or any other type of thing. So it's very important for these campgrounds to show you who they are, have you come visit, because there's people that came to see us that either just got into camping, got back into camping, or had never been to see us before because maybe they traveled somewhere else, but with the travel restrictions, they couldn't. So they stayed closer to home and they had a blast. They had a fabulous time. So, you could try a campground every weekend and it would take you years and years and years to get.
Oh, she froze up.
And you know what, Bob, not to sound provincial, but
campgrounds. And that's not even counting like state parks. So these are all private campgrounds or things like that. So it's very important for these campgrounds to show that information. And it's important for you, the consumer, to learn about these great campgrounds that are out there and try them, because they may not be, these big wig campgrounds. They're family owned. Loons Haven is a family owned campground and has been for 25 years. And there's a lot of them that are even longer than that have been family owned, but they're phenomenal. And to check them out and find them is what these types of shows are meant to do.
Well, plus if they camp at Loons Haven, they get a chance to buy the 60th anniversary sweatshirts and
yes.
What else you
got?
what else you got in the gift shop for the 60th anniversary?
Oh my gosh, I have so much stuff for the 60th. I have sweatshirts, I have hats, I have t-shirts, I got these really cool magnets and stickers. I'm getting custom ornaments made, really going all out with the 60th. And I haven't officially announced it yet, but we have a top Nashville entertainer coming to do a performance for our 60th anniversary weekend, July 31st.
Get out.
So I'm really, really excited. Yeah, I'm really excited.
Wait, you don't want to break the news on this international show tonight?
Their name is Dave and Daphne, and they are a phenomenal team. Like, you have to Google them and listen to them because they are incredible. Country music, and they're coming up, and they're doing actually several shows at a few different campgrounds up here in Maine. And I was lucky enough to snag them for our anniversary weekend, July 31st, and they're coming. So
now,
really excited about that show.
Have you ordered the autographed pictures of John and I for sale in the company store?
Oh, I have the big frame. Like, we just remodeled the store, so I just have them framed up there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But Billy, may I suggest you have to order them now. If you get available in the store, at your store only, the Bob Zagami bobblehead, that would certainly sell out.
I'm going to put the Loons Haven 60th anniversary shirt on him. We'll get that.
Exactly. Hey, the technology guy who got bumped off is back.
That's how this works. I'm in the middle of talking here, and I even have a MiFi hotspot. I'm not even on my home one. I was being extra careful.
Your mic is kind of stuttering there, so you may have something else in the way there.
But we got so many more comments here.
Chris says, good news with the Great American Outdoors Act coming to get national parks up to modern standards. It will give some relief over full campgrounds. Great for the industry. Frank Cates, campgrounds that are full all the time can likely expand to more sites than available acreage since the demand for sites is so great. They might be content with the size of their campgrounds. The campgrounds I know do have space to expand. I think that's another thing why campgrounds should exhibit. They've kind of gone along every year with that. But many of these campgrounds now are indeed, they're expanding the number of sites. They're picking up more residential sites. They're putting in park model rentals. They're putting in yurts. So it's a good opportunity to refresh people's memories, right, Billy?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Bill, we kind of touched on that pin drop. I'm not sure, Billy.
I stole your thunder.
That's okay.
Billy kind of filled in at the end, but if you want to expand upon that, you know what I'd like you to do, Bill, so people get an idea of the technology of these things. Explain briefly your electric bike expos that you did a few years ago, and if you remember it, that story that you told me about a dealer or a manufacturer. If we looked at a quadrant, he thought all his business was in the top left quadrant, but it was really down the bottom right. But he only realized that after he saw your pin drop. So speak to the technology of the Expo and why it was kind of critical at that time.
Yeah, the Expo, the Electric Bike Expo, was a test track for e-bikes. And usually if you're going to go test an e-bike, you go to a bike store. They let you drive around in the parking lot right in front. And if you bought something, the store knew, is it MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Discover, whatever. But that's all they knew about who bought their bikes. What we were doing was, again, 11 data points. We've learned that 11 is that break point. You go to 12 and then people start checking off the first item every single time. But 11 works. And we would put an RFID tag on their badge, and we tagged each bike. So as they rode around, they could come back to the booths and borrow another bike. They didn't have to do anything fancy, then go walk it onto our test track. And in the course of a weekend, we might have had 2, 3 dozen bikes that were being tested by 3,000 people. And we would start building profiles of who liked what bike. Flip side is, for the bike shops and for the bike brands, the Treks, the Cannondales of the world, they would think that they knew who their customer was. And what would really change is when we would give them the data, and what they thought was something for the males 35 and under turned out to be a female 55 and up actually appreciated that bike more. And it got them thinking that maybe that's why we're not selling as many bike units. Now, pandemic changed it. Every bike people could get out there was being purchased.
Similar to RVs. Yeah. Let's pick up on that people aspect of it, because in preparing our budgets, we are very conservative. So, and I want to share this with you because I want the dealers to understand the work that went into this. We budgeted this thing at 3,000 attendees. And you think about that and say, well, wait a minute, 3,000 attendees. Billy, if you read that package that went out today with for the dealer package, Billy did a graph of all the shows in the major shows, not all the little city shows. And if you take Boston, Hartford, Mohegan Sun, Springfield, and that totaled out to about 70,000 attendees. Now, do I think we're going to get 70,000? I hope, but I don't think so. But believe it or not, this software can accommodate 100,000, Bill?
It's at least 100,000. They've had several concerts done on this that they hit very close to that number. Nobody's tested to see, do they go over it, what happens? But the software is the same software being used by the United Nations for the General Assembly. Because with COVID, you can't keep traveling. So they are using this TechCrunch, for people who know in the tech sector. That's a startup conference that's held frequently throughout the year, and companies that want to make their pitch, and that's where they break into the world. Facebook was founded at TechCrunch. They have standardized on this software.
So let me pick up where I was going with this, though. So you might say, so we're going to be somewhere between 3,000 and 100,000. That's a nice place to be.
Narrowed it down.
So, but then you say, well, how are you going to get those people into the show? We're going to ask dealers to pay sponsorship for this. How do we get the people into the show? Well, obviously, a lot of it's going to be on social media, but we're also going to reach out, because John and I and Billy have a few contacts in this business. We're going to use social influencers and RV influencers here. So if you take, and we've got a special program for them where they can actually earn money. It's an affiliate program, and it's available to all of our dealers also, and all of our exhibitors and all of our campgrounds. So they're going to get a $5 discount code, which you can offer to your customers. Campgrounds can offer it. Billy's already done her mailing. And in addition to that, everybody who comes into the show using your code, then the dealer or the campground will get a $1 rebate. So in simplistic terms, if a campground pays $500 for an exhibit and they get 500 people to come into the show, they just exhibited free of charge. If a dealer pays $2,500 and up on this, and they get a couple of thousand people to come in, their exhibit is free of charge. Now we say, well, that's nice for the people to get the dollar. The dollar is the least important aspect of it, because we're going to go to people like RV Love, Mark and Julie Bennett, who have upwards of 100,000 people that follow them. We're going to go to a Mike and Jennifer Wendland with RV Lifestyle channel that have a couple 100,000 people that follow them. Chuck Woodbury at RV Travel newsletter, 100,000 people. Ed Hurlburt at RV Tips Facebook group, 200,000 people. When we were just throwing these numbers on the wall, we got over 1 million people that are going to get a notification of this expo. So now we can say we're going to be somewhere between 3,000 and a million. So, but I want to focus on that number. I would rather have 5,000 outstanding qualified people who came to this to spend 2 days with us to talk about what we're doing and how it benefits them. Billy, talk about the social media aspect and why it's so important.
It's so important, and that's something in the data that I looked at. Social media is the number one marketing for, especially for virtual events. You know, it would be kind of silly to market it in the printed newspaper when it's an online thing. So social media is a huge way to reach your consumer. You know, you have people who follow you on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, whatever it is. And these are all people that you can reach. And you might have the crossover. So people who follow my campground follow a few other campgrounds. And so they're getting hit with this multiple times. But the first time they see it, they're like, oh, maybe I'll think about it. And then they get 2 or 3 more messages. They'll be like, wow, this seems like a phenomenal event, because now I'm getting notifications from all these different places and we're getting the word out there. So social media is definitely the way to go to reach people. And it's the way to go just to reach people, not even for this event, but just for your business aspect of things. If you have a business and you don't have Facebook, or you don't have any kind of, YouTube channel or something, then you're missing out on consumers who are looking for you. They are looking for you constantly. If you have like Google Analytics for your website and you look at the search terms that people are looking for, like for mine, it's like camping in Maine. Well, that's very general, right? That's a general term to just say, but they're coming to my site. They're looking for you. They don't know exactly what they're looking for, but they are looking for you.
Well, and Billy, pick up on that point. With this pin drop map, you're going to get a map pin, lots of them, for everybody that came to your booth. And when you put your mouse on the pin, you bring up the 11 data points from that person. And you'll end up seeing, who is it? What is the age range that come to my business? Who came to my booth? Where are they coming from? You could be in central Connecticut and find out that it's Western Mass is thinking about you. And for whatever reason, they're not going to Western Mass dealers. All sorts of things are the reasoning behind it, but that's what the consumer chose.
Hey, Bill.
And this is going to give you that data.
Bill, you've brought up the term 11 points several times now. For our audience, especially for our dealers and prospective vendors, give us an example of what you mean by 11 points. What is the data that you're going to provide to them?
So you get the email address, and we know it's a valid email address, not Mickey@Disney.com, because they have to use their real email to get in here. You get their name, first name, last name, and you'll be able to address them in your email marketing when you reach back out. We're asking them age ranges. We're asking them how many years they've been either in RVing or camping. We're asking them the kind of unit, if they own an RV, what do they own? Class A, Class B, Class C, whatever it might be. Or that they don't own one. We will know that as well. And then we're asking things for folks who have actually owned RVs, how many? And it gets up there into the idea of, I think we had more than 20 or more than 10. I was thinking that, Bob is the one that I know that would have that many units in his lifetime. But it asks those kinds of questions. And when you go in and data sort your stuff, this is going to be an Excel spreadsheet. So you could sort. Also, we did ask state and zip code. 2 reasons for that, because if you have Portland, Maine as a zip code, when you get all the way up there to Loons Haven, it's not Portland, Maine. It's a different part of Maine. And you want to be able to sort the data. So you have it by zip code, you have it by state. If you are looking at who's Massachusetts, who's Connecticut, who's New Hampshire, whatever you want to sort by. So it became 11 of these data points. And when you do add it all up, the amount of data that you're really getting here, and then you compare it to what you would get for the in-person event, you don't even get to ask that many questions of a single attendee, let alone all of your attendees.
And I'm sure that Billy's been to many, many shows where, on the busy day of the show, if you have 3 people in front of your booth, that's all you can handle at any one time.
Yeah.
And I think Bob would agree. Actually, all my colleagues on this panel would agree that just in the last 5 years, the profile of the new RV buyer has totally changed. Whereas 7 to 8, 10 years ago, it might have been the 65-year-old retiree who lived in the suburbs and bought a Class A because that was their dream, to buy a big Class A unit. But today, we're finding younger and younger people coming into it full time. They're not staying in the area that they live. They're selling their house or condo or apartment or whatever, and traveling the country. And with COVID, just in the last 48 weeks, it's totally changed the capability that people have to not have to be in an office to conduct business. And so all of those factors will be brought up in seminars during this 2-day show. And in March, this event and NRVDA will actually be an exhibitor at the Girl Camper National Expo, which will be using the same software platform, same kind of an education format and exhibit booths. So this is a trade show we're doing, exhibiting at someone else's trade show. But it's the opportunity to dig in a little bit deeper into the girl camper community that is doing a lot of what you were just describing, John. Yeah, and we only got a few minutes left. And one thing we haven't done yet, terrible marketers, we haven't put up the website where people can go right now to buy tickets, Bob. That's because I'm online with you guys and not sitting out in the audience, because I would type it in a bunch.
We will put that up right after the show, because I've got to go out and come back in on some technology. But let's talk a little bit about workshops, because we talked about there's the 18 presentations on the main stage along with our keynote, and there's workshops. So exhibitors can do a workshop. So I see Walt Burns is on here from Easy Care. So Walt has done a lot of workshops for our dealers, but he also has consumer-facing workshops that promote the Easy Care products that our services, that our dealers can offer them. So as an exhibitor, he can present a workshop online, and those will be listed. And they can go back and click on those at any time afterwards and see what that material was. So if you've got, Kevin, if you wanted to, I'll throw this one out for Kevin, because he likes to, get involved with his dealers. But if, let's say, Chris Andro takes a dealership sponsorship, and in his display, there's the ability to click on a video. He could click on a video, and it could be Kevin Horkey talking all about the new Cougars that are coming out. Silent selling. People are going to click on it and say, learn all about the new Cougars here. And up pops Kevin, and he does a little short 3-minute video, or that talks about the new Cougars and some of the features that are coming on that. That's available to any dealer, and we'll have a lot of the workshops that are going to pertain to just a variety of things that people wouldn't even think about when they go to the show. So yeah, we are down to about 6 minutes. Bill, what did we leave off from a technology standpoint? Anything?
No, I think we've covered all the key pieces. Later on this month, the platform company is actually launching a mobile app. We're going to try to test that with Girl Camper National Expo in the middle of, it's the 20th and 21st of March, and see how it works. If it's ready for primetime playing, we're going to be using that as well. So folks who are on the road will be able to use their mobile phone to get in, or a tablet, an iPad, or something like that. Participating in the event is really easy. Once you're registered through the NRVDA site, where we have the links right there on the homepage, you will get a confirmation, and 1 day before the event and 1 hour before the event, you're going to get the same message twice, and it's going to be the link on how to get back into the event. And it's really simple. If you get kicked out, like I got kicked out earlier on this conversation, you just click the link again and you come right back into where you were. So it's going to be very straightforward kind of functionality, and you will be able to on camera talk to people. If you're shy, you don't want to be on camera, and we would presume that quite a few of our attendee pool probably is, you have the ability to chat with folks in their booth and with other fellow attendees. So both options are there for everybody.
Well, the other thing that we did, and either Billy or Bill can explain why we did this, but we're in favor of it. Our show, our expo, is going to be on Saturday and Sunday. And we've all been on meetings Monday through Friday. And people do other things. They check their email. They don't pay attention. Billy, can you explain the philosophy of why we would do a show on Saturday or Sunday?
Well, I mean, that's, you've got your family. The biggest thing I think with this show is you go to one show and you have to pay admission for every single person who goes. So maybe, one person doesn't want to go because you don't have to pay admission. You don't have to do that with this show. Everyone who can gather around the computer, or if we have the app, you can gather around a tablet, project it to your screen. Everyone can join in and watch the seminars, watch the workshops, go to the expos, look at all the campgrounds. You can do that together. So that's a huge benefit of it. And everyone's, home Saturdays and Sundays together. Sundays for us is family day, so we're always together on Sundays.
Well, you hit the magic. You hit the magic word, family. Because we've all taken our kids to RV shows, and you go and you really want to spend the whole day there. You want to see everything possible. Then the kid, goes a little haywire, and you just say, all right, let's get out of here, and we'll take them home. Or you wanted to go to lunch, and they get upset at the restaurant. Picture you're in your own home, your own big screen TV. Like you said, you hook it up to the TV, you get the popcorn.
In your pajamas.
Yeah, in your pajamas. Get the popcorn. You can spend the whole day as a family picking and choosing what you want to see, talking to the dealers. And the other thing is, we are doing this the weekend before. We're going to ask all the NRBDA dealers to do an open house on the 17th and 18th. So they'll be able to advertise their open house much like they do when they're at another show. So we could probably go on a little bit longer, but what does Tony say? Woohoo. Peggy Bartell and I are speakers at the Girl Camper headquarters.
Speaking at the Girl Camper event.
At the Girl Camper. All right. Well, you got to stop by and see our booth for NRBDA, Tony. We'll do that. All right. We're going to pop up our closing commercial. Any closing comments, Bill or Billy, to the folks that are out there?
We do thank Lee's family, because Lee's family trailers, they're going to be part of our program.
Mm-hmm. Who is
Lee's?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They're sponsoring.
Yeah.
Has anyone noticed John has been very quiet for a while?
John, did you need SpaghettiOs?
We left him speechless.
Maybe he hasn't had dinner yet. He's running down. Mary Beth, I can hear the can opener now. Mary Beth is opening the can of the Chef Boyardee right now.
Imagine eating a can of those at 8 o'clock at night and then trying to sleep.
I can't imagine him eating them any time of any day.
At any time of day. I think, but you know what? I'm getting away from SpaghettiOs into Raviolios.
There is such a thing.
Imagine the quality of meat that's in that ravioli.
It's an improvement. Yeah. All right, I'm going to...
Bill, can you answer that question from Audrey?
Audrey?
Just real quick.
So I paid ticket to the event. All our guests have to be on our live. Yes, you would have to be on the same device. You would not be able to share your login, because if more than one person tries to log in, it stays with the most recent login is the one that gets it. So if two people log in from two different devices, first one's going to get kicked out when the second one goes in. So it is one device that goes in. If you reboot the device, you can come back in, but it still is one device.
Yeah,
that's just how the software was prepared.
Yeah, but from a family aspect, hopefully you'll be together for 2 or 3 of it.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Sell, I'm going to drop you down. I'm going to bring up the commercial, and we will not be coming back after the commercial. This is our closing commercial. Thanks, Billy. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Beep, 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 beep. And
say a prayer, everybody.
Thank you.
This edition of RVing in New England was brought to you by Lee's Family Trailer Sales and Service, one of America's fastest growing RV dealerships, and was a presentation of the New England RV Dealers Association. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.